This video brought to you in part by Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions. This exciting and heartwarming coming-of-age Gen X novel is available now. Check the link for more info. Last week I published my review of this, the Atari 50th Anniversary Flashback Gold unit from AtGames. And in that review I talked about the fact that these paddles felt kind of tight. They weren't quite, like something wasn't quite right. I figured they would loosen up. I got a little bit used to them. But the more I have played with this, I did the updated video where I added all the games to it, and the more games I had that used paddles, the more I got a chance to try this. And the more that I found that there just something wasn't quite right with these paddles that ship with the unit. So I did some testing, I did some digging. You know what I found out? There's nothing wrong with these paddles. Well, sort of. There's actually something wrong with this little thing. Yeah. Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I am John and I am a GenXGrownUp. Thank you for the click. I will explain now. So let me say that the paddles themselves are almost exactly like the original Atari paddles. If you crack one open, inside there's the same little micro switch or keyboard switch. There's the same little potentiometer that gets all the actual business done and passes the user's input on to the hardware. Well, that all sounds great, so what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is that the hardware in question that's receiving the data is not a real Atari, but in fact is the software layer of this flashback unit. So I found a test program written by Paul Slocum that allows you to test the behavior of your black and white switch, the difficulty, the reset, the game, and all of your controllers. If you're moving your joystick up, down, left, right, it shows you moving the joystick up, down, left, right visually on the screen. So take a look here at me using a real paddle, a real analog control on this cartridge. You can see as I move the paddle back and forth, that little puck at the bottom, it's basically like a breakout paddle. It's moving back and forth, following my movements, just as you would expect. However, because I have now expanded my flashback via USB on the previous video that I did, I can now drop that test cartridge right onto the USB stick and run the same cartridge and compare the results. So here's this test cartridge running, and you can see when you change things, like you change difficulty, you can see that it's reflected here, the difficulty changed. A, B, it's showing you. If I do reset, you can see it showing here reset, or if I do game select or start, whatever, you can see what's happening here. And the same is true with the joystick. So if I move the joystick left, up, right, down, you see these indicators? Hit the fire button. Okay, now I've switched to the paddles. What I want you to see is right away the left and right arrow are already lit up. And as you move left and right, there's no movement on the paddle reader. So there's no paddle data making it to the game. The flashback is storing that data and formulating it into something else. So if I move left and right on the first paddle, it uses the left and right arrows. I'm sure it's doing math. It's trying to say how far between here and there in the previous millisecond and calculating the left-right, I'm guessing. If I take the other paddle, that's using the up and down arrows. What you're seeing is right here. And it's even processing all of that along with the fire button data into one control report. What seems to me to be happening here is that the flashback software is taking the analog data, reinterpolating it into digital joystick data, so you can almost understand why AtGames did this. The idea is, hey, the end user can now control paddle games with the joystick if they want to, because they'll either interpolate paddle data into joystick data, or you can just use a regular joystick. The problem is, the interpolation is flawed. This would be fine if the interpolation of the left-right movement translated perfectly and matched the analog control. What I used to feel was just a sticky or tight controller. The more I played with it, I realized it's just not processing the analog data properly. I saw a video by another creator named BatPixel who contacted AtGames and they just kind of said you can get a refund from Amazon. Amazon gave him a credit and he said, well, hell, I'll just buy a real set of Atari paddles and fix the problem. Unfortunately, that's not going to fix anything because the problem isn't the paddle. There's nothing wrong with this. What they're shipping, which effectively is a $10 expansion, a great price for a pair of aftermarket paddles, these work fine. The problem is the software is taking all of that analog data, crunching the numbers, and turning it into imperfect digital data to try to become more, compatible or easier to use. And in the end, it just makes paddle control of games ineffective. I will reach out to AtGames and see if they have any input on it. I know that BatPixel got no results from them, but since I've kind of narrowed it down to what the root cause is, maybe we can find out if it could be addressed in a future firmware update. I want to thank you for stopping by for this quick update. I'll throw some links over my shoulders here to some previous videos I've done about the Flashback Gold. Thank you for stopping by. I can't wait to talk to you next time. Bye-bye.